I definitely didn't set out to make a Bridgerton-inspired theme for my July bullet journal setup, but it seems that we've ended up there anyway. This month is all about delicate florals, ornate flourishes, and waterfall tabs, which I haven't done in quite a while. Hi, I'm Erin, and I'm so excited you're planning with me for July. This is my first monthly setup in my T4C journal, and it was a really good test because when you're setting up waterfall tabs, you really notice if the dots are aligned from one page to the next. Almost all of the papers, stickers, and washi tapes I'm using in this setup came from the Paper Monogatari summer release. Thank you so much to Anna for sending me these, I appreciate it so much, and I fell in love with them immediately. These are just my colours. When I know I'm going to be removing a lot of paper from my journal for a setup like this, I always like to start with the cutting part. That way I can't accidentally set up a spread and then chop half of it off because I didn't plan things out properly, so I always like to cut first, then draw everything out second. When you're setting up waterfall tabs like this, what you need to do is remove part of the side of the page increasingly as you move sort of backwards through the journal, so you do need to work out how many pages you want to set up first before you can jump in and start cutting here. So I started from the last page that I want involved in my setup, actually the second last, because the last page will remain fully intact. And I cut off the outside 2 dot grid spaces, or cut along the third dots, if that makes sense. And then every time I'm turning back a page, I'm removing an extra 2 dot grid spaces from the page that came before. So if the first one I cut was 2 dot grid spaces, the next one will be 4 dot grid spaces, and then 6 dot grid spaces, all the way down until I get back to my calendar page. I'm using a craft knife, X-Acto knife, Stanley knife, whatever you call this where you come from, and a metal ruler with a cutting mat behind each page. This one didn't go so well, so I'm just cleaning it up with some scissors as well. But you could do all of this with scissors if you prefer, if that's easier for you. I just feel like I have a bit more precision this way. I also really recommend keeping some of the off-cut paper because you could make yourself a grid spacing guide out of one of those, or potentially use it to cover some mistakes later on. This is what the waterfall tabs look like when they're cut but nothing else is done to them. We will come back to them later and line them with washi tape so they'll all look really nice together, but I have more cutting to do first, so we're going to prioritize that for now. I've actually allowed 2 spreads for my cover this time, which is unusual, but not unprecedented for me. I've done it before for October last year. And I'm using this frame as the basis of a window that I'm going to cut out of the right page here. So it's going to reveal the paper that's on the page behind it through that little gap. I'm going to line that with those frame scrapbooking papers that I had a second ago, making sure I've got one for the front and one for the back this time, because last time I did this, I didn't factor in the back of the window and I wished I had later, so things to note. I just traced the inside of that frame so I would have an idea of where the area that I needed to cut away was, and I'm trying to cut just outside of the lines that I drew so that the paper isn't visible on the inside of the frame. These frames are from JOURNALSAY, by the way. I'll make sure they're linked in the description for you, along with everything that I'm using in this video. I'm just using my pencil again to outline the part of the page that you'll be able to see through the window on the right side, and we're going to do that on the left too, but I just needed to get into decorating and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I hadn't planned things out too thoroughly this time around, so when in doubt, I always like to just start by lining a page edge with a wide washi tape, and that is such a good starting point just to get something down on the page and then work around it. For this left page here, for this initial part of the cover spread, I wanted whatever fell into that frame to be something pretty, but not necessarily too functional. I'm planning to put a quote on this page, but I didn't want the quote to sit in the box this time. I did that in my mystery journal giveaway journal setup earlier this year, and I thought, let's do something different. So instead, I'm using this little Parisian balcony sticker, and that's just going to sit so perfectly in that space. For something different, because this set was designed by Anna from Journal Away, I was a little bit inspired maybe by the way she does her own bullet journal setups, and she will quite often change the color of an entire page, and I was like, well, Anna's cool, let's be like Anna. So I'm trying to add some glue tape here. This one is a little bit tricky. I find that the glue tape kind of smushes itself to the side as you're using it, and you have to pull it back to the middle of the area that's supposed to touch the paper, or it doesn't work so well. But anyway, yes, I'm borrowing ideas here from Anna. The Afternoon in Paris set comes with 4 washi papers, but you can also buy them separately on her store as well. And I thought, because they're already perfectly A5 sized, I would just line them up with my page and cut out that little window in the middle, and then it will kind of almost look like the pages. I think it looks like it's been wallpapered or upholstered or something. It's just such a cool effect. I really like it. I used this handwritten script effect washi tape to line the back of that box on the left side, and so I thought for a bit of continuity, I'd do the same thing on the right. It's perfectly sized to the same size as the cutout box there, so that's very handy. But where on the left side I didn't want to add text in that space, I am adding the nice big July header that is also from Anna's sticker sheets. I like how it's bold enough to jump out from the background, but it sort of blends in a little bit too. I feel like it's just a little Lady Whistledown approved flourished lettering moment, and I really like that. I'm jumping back to the left page now and adding a quote here. I'm adding half of the quote above the decoration that's on the page so far, and I'm going to put the second half of the quote underneath. I've been having trouble making myself rest lately, and as a result, I'm actually sick right now, which is not ideal. Apologies if my voice sounds a little bit weird. But I was looking for a quote that is something that I can relate to at the moment, that is kind of like being kinder to yourself and taking some pressure off. So the quote I've chosen is from John Steinbeck. It is, "Now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good." I used a coloured Tombow Fudenosuke to do that one actually, and it really surprised me. I've never had any of the colourful Tombow Fudenosukes before, but my friend Courtney gave me this one and I really like it. I've been using it a lot lately. I knew I wanted to add some contrast to this right page because it's very sort of monotone at the moment. There's not a lot of darkness going on besides the July lettering, so I wanted to add some of that in these hydrangea stickers. But I'm not sticking the frame down until the very last thing because I know I want it to be on the very top of the layers of the page, so anything else that has to be stuck down that looks like it's going to go behind that frame needs to be stuck down first and then the frame last. If you don't have a glue pen in your collection and you like to do the similar kind of scrapbooking style journaling things like me, I really recommend investing in one. This thing is amazing. I love that you can get into the tight little corners of a design like this. It holds really well. It takes a minute before it starts to really get a grip on whatever it is you're trying to stick down. Like if there's something, if you have a corner that keeps lifting up, you'll probably have to hold it down for 30 seconds before the glue sort of does it itself. But once it's stuck down, baby. It's staying there. I really liked the patterned washi paper on the other side of the window page so much that I'm just going to do it again on the other side. It's a really impactful way to decorate and also very low effort. It's like you get a lot of bang for your buck, a lot of wow factor without having to do a great deal. So let's just do the same thing again. I wasn't really too sure how I wanted to decorate the rest of this July page on the right, so I went with an old failsafe, which is to use two different similar coloured washi tapes. These ones are also both from the set from Paper Monogatari, so that's handy. Hello Mitsu, come to investigate and interfere. I do find these washi tapes are very delicate, especially when you're first peeling them off the roll. They can break, so you want to be very careful with those ones. Although you do get a decent amount on the roll, so it's okay to waste a little bit. You're not going to miss out too much on the design. It's not like you'll run out really quickly or anything. So I'm layering up this floral hydrangea print washi with the gingham washi, and I just think they look perfect together. Of course they do. They all came in the same set. They're supposed to look perfect together. Excuse me, Mitsu. It was once I started laying down these floral washi stickers that I realized I actually needed a bit more visual weight through the center of the page for this to work. So I put the stickers down, and I wanted to also make sure that they weren't visible through the window. I wanted them to really hide out of the way, so it was just July poking through that little window. But I've decided I want more of the script washi, so I'm actually going to try and do something a little bit tricky here. I'm going to take some more of that washi tape, approximately the same length as the edges of what's currently on the page. I'm going to rip that in half, and then I'm going to place those halves with their ripped edges because I love a ripped edge washi tape. I just think it looks so soft and kind of romantic. And I'm going to layer that right next to the existing washi tape that's already on the page. So I will have to peel up the floral stickers that I've already placed down, but that's not going to be a problem. And I cut off the far edge as well because there's a little extra gap of white that runs along the edge, and I wanted this to look like maybe a whole scrap of paper that had come out of a book or something, so it's giving the effect that it's one solid piece of text rather than 3 vertical strips of text, if that makes sense. The first time I removed that just with my scissors. The second time I had planned to do the same thing, but I actually just forgot, so I got my little Stanley knife craft knife again and just very lightly scored over the top of the edge of the washi where I wanted to cut it. If you do this in a fairly thick page journal, you can generally lift up that washi tape from whatever area you cut out pretty easily. I also needed to then move the washi tape over a little bit because it had left a gap on the page, but that's totally okay. Once we get it in position, I actually think this looks really cool. So here's the full effect of the July cover spreads, plural, 2 of them next to each other. That is very self-indulgent. I just had a great time doing this, and this journal has more pages than my usuals, so I'm just very happy to use up those extra pages doing extra creative things. So let's continue to do that, in fact, with these waterfall tabs. Anytime I get a set of washi tapes that look fantastic together already, waterfall tabs are the first place that my head goes because, you know, they already look nice, sort of lined up next to each other in a box or something. This is the next step beyond that, where they're just lined up next to each other on a page, on the edges of pages, in fact. When I have a really wide washi tape like this script lettered one, I like to still use that on my waterfall tabs. I'll just pop it down on my cutting mat, work out how wide I need it to be to sort of wrap around the front and back of an edge of a page, and then use my metal ruler again and my craft knife and just cut it and peel it back up off the cutting mat, and it's ready to go. It's a very nice way to get a crispy, clean edge. When you're deciding which washi tapes should go next to each other on a waterfall tab situation like this, I recommend considering the visual weight. I have a video that is about some graphic design principles and how I relate them to bullet journaling, so visual weight is one of the concepts I talk about in that video. I'll have that linked in the description in case you'd like to check it out. But the quick and dirty version is that different things have different visual weights when you look at them, so something like this script washi tape, even though it's quite busy, there's a lot of detail on it, your eye just kind of sees it as a pattern. It doesn't look too closely at what's going on there, it just goes, oh yeah, texture. And so it has a pretty low visual weight versus the one I used on the previous waterfall tab, which is this colourful kind of tile watercolour pattern. So it has a more busy effect going on. It's got a higher visual weight, a more dense visual weight than the script. The gingham one here is probably kind of somewhere in the middle because it's got more colour going on. Obviously it's a bolder pattern, but it's still kind of, it's less going on than, say, the one that we're cutting now. So keeping in mind those visual weights and varying the ones that are next to each other will give you a more interesting look across your waterfall tabs. You could also go from darkest to lightest if you have a range of colours. I've done that before and it was fun. Or you can just ignore me and put them in whatever order you like, even if it's random, because you make the rules for your journal. It's about you, it's not about me. But my journal is about me, so this is how I like to do it in mine. I like the way the washi on the edge of the page looks. It looks kind of like finished and nice, so I like to do both the front and the back of each of my waterfall tabs in the same tape. When I have a wider washi tape, that's easy because you can just wrap it around to the other side, and this one I thought was a bit too long. It's going to interfere with the actual planning space there, so I'm just going to cut the edge off this washi and carry on. But the ones that I'm using a thinner washi tape for that only really lines one side of the page at a time, we'll go back and we'll just add those in a separate strip down the other side. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten about them, I just haven't got to them yet. I do things out of order sometimes. I'm not a very linear person, apparently. Thinking back to that concept of visual weight, these waterfall tabs now provide a lot of visual weight for the pages from this calendar page that we're about to set up onwards, so I don't actually need to do a lot of decorating when I've done this kind of setup because a lot of it's really done for you with the bits that you removed from the page and then the decorations that you added to the edge there, which I like because it makes the rest of the setup really fast. We're just setting up a calendar spread here for July, which very thankfully starts on a Monday, which I like my calendars to start on a Monday as well, so that's a very nice, fresh way to jump into a new journal, I feel like, is to start on a Monday the 1st. There's something really nice about that. It's very satisfying. I really like to have the calendar as my first functional spread when I'm doing a monthly bullet journal setup like this, so I strategically set things up so that the previous page was a full page. It didn't have a window cut out of it, it didn't have a Dutch door kind of situation or waterfall tab situation going on, so that I could fit a full-size calendar here even though I cut off a significant amount of the right page. So I've got Monday through to Friday on the left page and just Saturday and Sunday on the right. That's not how I would usually set up my calendar, but I'm totally okay with it because we have to work with the space that we have when we're doing waterfall tabs. I've made each of my calendar boxes 4 spaces tall by 4 spaces wide and added an extra single dot grid space vertically above each one of those so that I could have a space to put the number for each day of the week. So a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if that makes sense. If you like your things a bit more minimal than me, then you can let the waterfall tabs just do all of the decoration heavy lifting for you and just not decorate the rest of the spreads. But I wanted to have just a little bit of something extra, so I added some bottle and vase stickers in the bottom corner, a lantern up the top right, a couple of little florals around, and then I'm going to leave it at that. Especially once you factor in writing down any events or reminders or birthdays or anything that I have on these days. This is going to get busier than it is already, so we're just going to leave it there with lots of nice white space to balance things out. I'm also jumping in with this little corner punch tool and just rounding off the corners of my waterfall tabs because I forgot to do that before. I feel like this makes them look very professional and finished, almost like the journal just came this way and I didn't have to do anything to make it look like that. It's just a nice little elevated touch. I'm going to give you my grid spacing guide for this setup, even though I've removed a lot of the page, just in case it's in any way still helpful for you, in case you have the exact same number of waterfall tabs as me. Let's turn the page and we're going on to a dedicated goals spread, which I wouldn't usually give its own spread, but because we've got so much page missing on both the left and right sides here, it's a very small spread now. So I feel like goals is a good one to just, it doesn't need that much room. It can just be where you write down 3 or 4 things maybe that you want to achieve in the month. I've been feeling pretty motivated lately to try and tackle some stuff that's been on my to-do list for a long time, so I'm actually giving myself probably way more space than I need here, but right now I'm feeling motivated about all the things I want to do in July. Whether or not I actually get to them remains to be seen, but we'll find out. I was just offsetting every second line there with a very, very pale pink Tombow Jewel brush pen. You almost can't see it on camera, but it's helpful in real life, trust me. I promise, it's visible to me. Not a lot I can tell you there as far as grid spacing, so let's move on to the next one. This is going to be my habit tracker. Something that I have been really struggling with this year is doing the habits, but again, I don't know, I think it's just a winter thing. Because it's winter here in Australia, I get more motivated when it's cooler. I don't respond well to hot weather. Honestly, Brisbane coolness, I looked up some temperatures recently and our top winter temperature for a Brisbane day was 1 degree warmer than London's top temperature for their summer day. So if that gives you an idea of what winter is like in my city versus what summer might be like, maybe that's why. But anyway, I'm doing 4 habits here and I'm feeling pretty positive about being able to tackle them. I'm even writing them in early, which I don't normally do because I know what the things are that I'm tackling right now that I think I will want to continue to tackle into July. I'm setting these up just as tiny calendars. You just write the number for each day of the month in the dot grid spaces and then color that space in or circle it or put a cross through it when you do the habit on that day, and then you have a good record of how frequently you're doing the things. Some of these aren't things that I necessarily want to do every day, but I do want to have a record so I can look back and be like, okay, I haven't exercised in 3 days. It's probably time, Anna's sets come with a really good mix of functional and decorative stickers, and one of the functional stickers actually says habits, so I thought, well, why not use that? But I actually couldn't get it to show up. It's a slightly transparent sticker and I couldn't get the text to show up because it's kind of white on a pink background, so if I layered this transparent sticker you couldn't see it, so I put it on some other separate paper and stuck it in. Our next one is the content planner, and tell you what, I need this. I missed 2 YouTube uploads recently because I was tired, didn't have the time or the energy to make them happen. Thank you so much for your patience. You guys are so encouraging when I post and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do it this week. And you guys are like, please rest and take care of yourself. It's just so heartwarming, and also it's a reminder that I sometimes need. So thank you so much for your grace and compassion. I'm into a nice lull at the moment. I have a bit of a reprieve before things get hectic again, so my plan is to try and use that time to get ahead on videos so that I don't do that to you again, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, this spread is for planning out all of my content in advance so I can schedule out my Instagram content, which I've been really not doing a good job at staying on top of lately, and of course YouTube content because I'm posting 2 videos a week. I want to try and be more active on the community tab, you know. This spread is not absolutely necessary to staying on top of these things. Like, I do also have my video schedule in my Google Calendar, and as I schedule things out with third-party scheduling software for Instagram, like, I can see on their calendar where everything is, but this just helps me keep it all locked in together in my head. And I also then can relate, like, well, this video is going up on YouTube on this day, so it would be smart for me to post something similar on Instagram that sort of ties in and maybe sends traffic that way, you know. It's just like a master content planning list for me. And it's deliberately a little bit asymmetrical to accommodate having an odd number of days in the month. Here's the grid spacing in case you want to borrow this idea for your own journal. We're on to the last spread for this setup, although there will be more. This is the first of the weeklies, and I'm planning to hopefully get back to doing weekly live streams with you guys again. Not as in live streams every week, but live streams where we set up my weeklies. I can't commit to weekly live streams at this stage. I'm sorry I didn't get this to happen for us in June. To be totally honest with you, I haven't set up any weeklies for June since that first one. I have not been using my journal. I'm hoping to fix that. We'll see how we go. Because of the reduced page size, I've gone for a pretty simple weekly layout here. Just 8 horizontally oriented boxes so I can fit 4 on the left page, 4 on the right page, and I'm going to make the bottom right corner one notes. There are lots of beautiful functional weekday name stickers in the set here, so I'm using some of Anna's stickers for the names of each day of the week. And there's even a handy little one that matches that says notes, although it is in a different color. That doesn't bother me. I'm totally okay with that. It's subtle enough that I think it still works really well. I went for the blue one. It's also in lowercase rather than uppercase like the others, but it is a different section, so I'm okay with it looking different. I actually think that makes perfect sense. I also added some extra little stickers around just to kind of embellish in a way that doesn't take up too much of the planning space. You know, I love to add extra little embellishments in places where they make sense, so this is one of my favorite ways to do that on the weeklies. Just covering little bits of some of the heading stickers as well. I just think that looks really cute. Here's the grid spacing. I hope you like it. I did notice though, while I was adding those smaller stickers, that I had some really tiny ones left over. I'd almost finished this whole sheet, so I thought, let's just add these tiny little sparkle star stickers around this spread, and any that I think would be too much for the spread, we'll go back to maybe the calendar and the cover pages and just add some to those as well, because why not, right? It's like the visual weight thing again. These are very, very low visual weight. They're not dark, they're not big, they look cute with the theme, so this is a really fun way to just add a little bit of extra twinkle, a little bit of extra something, without being overpowering. And I wanted to finish up the sheet, so I added a couple more flowers to the cover page, and then decided after all that I do want them visible through the window, despite not wanting that earlier, so I moved them where you can see them through the window. And I found some more sparkles on another sheet too that I decided I wanted to use, so let's add some of those around too. I won't use all of them necessarily, I might save some for the future weeklies. They are a really cute, subtle extra touch of something, so they are very welcome here on my spreads. And there we have it. Let's have a final flip through of July 2024 in my bullet journal. I can't believe we're halfway into the year. I think Penelope Featherington would approve of this setup. Let me know what you think. There's something about this pastel vintage kind of design that I think really speaks to my soul. This really feels like who I am as a person, made into a bullet journal layout, and I love it so much. I hope that I really use the heck out of this one, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. If you'd like to see more from me and you have not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. You can turn on notifications if you like. I also have a private Discord server that is just for my channel members, so if you want to hang out and chat some more with me, that's something that we can do, and I have a book club over there too, which is so much fun. I'll be back on Friday night, my time, with another video. If you'd like to keep doing some planning, maybe this July wasn't quite your vibe, there is a link on the screen right now to July in the Mystery Journal, which is a journal I set up for someone who is not me, and underneath that is a link to a playlist of all of my bullet journal setups so far this year. Happy planning!